Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video we will be making this crunchy chinchin that melts right in your mouth. So we are starting with our buttermilk because in this video we're going to be using buttermilk and not milk. We'll be making use of the buttermilk. Here we have one sachet of milk and we have our water right in there, and we just added 2 drops of vinegar, and that's how we prepare our buttermilk for this. And just make it and set it aside. So we go ahead to sift our flour. Don't forget this, in whatsoever condition, don't forget to sift your flour, because there is always most of the time, not always though, most of the times there are some stuff that you wouldn't like to see in your chinchin or in your pastries, but it's going to be there because you skipped this part. So don't skip this part. So in this video we'll be using 4 cups of flour, which is approximately half a kilo of flour. So we'll add in the first this is actually half cup we are using. That's why you see me pour in 4, making it 2 cups. Half, making it 2 cups. So wow, what should we be talking about while we're sipping the flour? Maybe you should tell me where you're watching from. Tell me what you think of our last video. If you've not watched our last video on Nigerian buns, you are missing, because that buns is very tasty. You have to have a bite to understand. So we are adding in the second half of the flour, and here we are going to replace the last cup with cornstarch. As you can see, that cornstarch is going to give it a more crunchier taste. It's going to give make the texture more, you can try it out. Try replacing should I say 1/4 or 1/8 of the flour. You can just do it however. You can decide to replace 2 cups, a cup with cornstarch. Actually, this is this crunchier taste, and we'll go ahead to add our sugar. As you can see, we're actually using half cup of sugar and some milk flavor, some salt, and for our flavoring we are actually using cinnamon, and this is the baking powder we are using. But I don't usually use this for every of my recipe. For chinchin I prefer it for other pastries, but not for chinchin. But due to the fact that I don't have the other one that I explained to you earlier, there is this one in white container. If you're in Nigeria, you understand better. It ranges from 150 to 300 in all the pastry shops. If you go to buy, it's in small container. So we want this chinchin to be crunchy but soft at the same time. We want it to be crunchy and soft. That's why you see us adding enough butter to it. Okay, but if you want your own to be a kind of harder than this, you want it to be you want people to add in a little effort to be able to break that rock, then you should add less butter and less baking powder. You can even skip the baking powder part if you actually want it that rocky and hard. Alright, but I wouldn't advise you to give us that kind of punishment. At least just add a little bit to air up that dough. So we're actually preparing our liquid ingredients, our wet ingredients. The dry ones is ready. So we're actually trying to mix in everything, mix in the egg and the milk, so we can add them all together. inside the dry ingredients. So we'll be pouring everything. We'll be making a shallow well, a small well in the middle, so we can pour in everything inside and mix in. Alright, mixing. Have fun while doing that. Just play around it so it wouldn't look like a lot of work for you trying now to make the dough. Okay, so what do you think? I was actually thinking of something earlier. What should we be doing at times like this when we don't have much to talk about what we are doing at the scene, because it's so obvious you're just washing, it's fun. Then we should talk about something else to make it more fun. And I was thinking about a story time, something like that, telling a story while working around the dough, or we can have a question and answer session, just like all those frequently asked question. You can actually bring it on, but that will actually lead us to making a premiere, making the videos premiere, so we can talk about it. What do you think? So tell me whatever you think about my suggestion. Let's talk about it in the comment section. While we continue rolling out our dough, we just dusted the white surface with some flour, and we are trying to give it this final treatment. We are trying to give this dough its final treatment. So what do you think? Actually think a story time will actually be enjoyable at this point. Well, we can actually divide it. Maybe this week we do a story time, a story session. The next week we do a question and answer pertaining on the questions you have, and even if it's results to making another video to answer the questions, that will be no problem. That will be totally fine with me, because I will be willing to do that for you guys. Don't mind me dusting the dough over again. It's just in habit. Just don't mind me, just making it fun. Just like I always say, play around it so you wouldn't take it as work. It wouldn't be a work to you. Maybe you want to make chinchin for family and friends during festive periods like Christmas. You can actually adopt my method of playing around the work, so it wouldn't look as if you're doing a whole lot of work, frying, cutting out for the whole family. So here is another tip on rolling out your dough before cutting. You should actually make it as thin as possible. All right, stretch it out really pretty well, so it wouldn't end up looking like donuts. Don't make it too thick. All right, try and stretch it out. The thinner the better. Okay, especially if you want your chinchin to come out crunchy. You should always remember that. Remember to roll it out pretty well, stretch it very well. Don't just roll it out like you're going to make a donut. You should stretch it as thin as possible. So we are done rolling out and cutting out the first one. So we're going to be removing them right now and putting it in a plate ready to be fried. So we're actually going to dust that plate so it wouldn't stick too much. When you're doing this, it might actually look as if it's not gonna separate again. Don't worry, it's actually going to separate right in your oil. Don't bother about, oh, what if I put it in and it looks as long as it is now. It's not going to look like noodles after frying, alright? You don't have to be too worried about that. Once you put that right in the oil, it's going all to your tent, oh Israel. every and each of them is going to separate immediately. Even though some will be coconut hair, they will not like to separate. But don't worry about them. You can still do something about them later, not now. Alright? So let's continue with the cutting out. Let's cut everything. Let's roll out everything. Don't something else I would like to tell you is that you don't have to make the dough very perfect. You don't have to make it look perfect. And if you don't have this pizza cutter, you don't have to worry. You can still use your knife and do the same job. And sometimes the one I actually cut out with a knife looks prettier at the end. So don't worry about the pizza cutter. It's not as if it's the fastest. It doesn't even make the work that fast. It's just the same with the knife. So don't feel bad about that. You can use your kitchen knife. You're free. Even your pen knife, you're still free. So we are putting in the oil. We are trying to heat up the oil, and let's check if it's hot enough. And here it is. It is hot enough. So we are pouring in our, you see how I just carry this in? It's as if I'm laying something to rest. Something like that. Just put it in like that, and don't worry, the separation will take its course. Just go around it side by side. Don't just put in your spoon from the middle. You might end up breaking some, or actually breaking them in the oil. You won't like that. So just side by side, just like you're seeing it, side by side, something like that, to avoid them crumbling in the oil, something of that nature. So while we are frying, I will quickly remind you that sometimes your chinchin actually scatters in the oil, breaks in the oil due to excessive fat. Sometimes, not all the time. And sometimes it might actually be because of the stuff is too much in the oil. And something else I would like to tell you is this. You see this I just did now? Don't do it. Don't bring it up, break it, trying to break it, or trying to use your spoon, go front, go forward when you just added in the your chinchin is going to break or scatter in the oil, and you wouldn't like that result. So most times is due to the fact that the fat, the oil, the butter, margarine in the chinchin is actually way too much, or the fact that you poured in excessive dough in the oil, more than the oil can contain. It will end up crumbling. Everything will just crumble in the oil. It will start scattering. Okay, so at this point, this chinchin is already done. It's already done, as you can see. But this is where the hustle for the shade, the preferred shade, starts. Everybody like different shades of chinchin. You can see the first time I brought it up is actually white, but the lightning is making it look golden brown, but it's not yet golden brown. It's still white, light, something milky, something like milky in color. And I actually left it to deepen a little bit because I like it golden brown, literally golden brown. So if you're doing a commercial frying like me, I wouldn't advise you. Like, this should be the best quantity your oil can contain. If you add anything more than this quantity right in your oil, I promise you it's going to break right inside that oil. and you are not going to like the result. So don't pour way too much. Don't pour in way too much, so you wouldn't end up regretting the results after making that your perfect dough. It wouldn't be nice. Okay, so here, ta-da! And once you're done putting in your draining in your grater, you see whatever you're using to bring it out right from the fire, you should get something, a flat surface, anything at all that you can actually spread it out, so it will actually get cold, something like that. Trying to air it a little bit so it will get cold for storage. All right, you shouldn't store it while still hot. You should actually wait for it to get cold and then you can store. And I noticed that in this video is getting too long, way too long already, so we will be making a part 2 of this video to show you how to give that your chin chin a pro treatment by packaging. All right, and it wouldn't cost a dime. It's that same nylon that you have been using, but we will show you another way to give it this pro treatment. And if you're packaging, if you're actually storing for your own purpose, or you're giving to a client that wants way too much, more than the normal 150 naira on your tie in your nylon, you can actually use this plate. This plate is actually nice. You can see that it's actually nice for this purpose. Thank you. See you in the next video.